Well, I greet you. This is Spencer Lamar Booker. I want to thank you for loaning your ear to me for a moment. I want to share my voice among the many voices to amplify our disdain against police killings of unarmed black men. As a scholar, um, my whole journey has been how the black church can become an advocate against police killings of unarmed black men. Being a victim as a family member of my brother Marvin Lewis Booker, who was murdered by 5 sheriffs in Denver, Colorado in 2010. My brother was arrested, and as a result of his detention in the Van Simmons Center, um, unfortunately, the 5 sheriffs ambushed him. One cop put a carotid chokehold upon him, and he declared the phrase, "I can't breathe," like Eric Gardner in Staten Island. He also exclaimed, as a law enforcement officer put his arms around his neck, "I can't breathe." And now we see George Floyd, who an officer put his knee in his neck, and George declared, "I can't breathe." For me, I cannot help but speak and join the voices to say that this kind of killing is unacceptable. I want you to, when you get a chance, see the documentary of my brother, written by documentarian Wade Gardner, developed by him, entitled Marvin Lewis Booker Was Murdered. It's out there on Vimeo. My brother was a good guy and had his own issues, but did not deserve to be murdered by 5 sheriffs. We prove that those 5 sheriffs were negligent in killing my brother, but all 5 of them walked away without being charged with murder. I want to commend the police chief of Minneapolis, who fired the 4 officers immediately, and therefore was discharged of their duties. But that has to go a step further. Mr. George Floyd murderers must be charged with murder. I pray that Mr. Keith Ellison, the general attorney of the state of Minnesota, will force the hands of the powers to be, the circuit attorney in Minneapolis, to make sure that those charges come forth and those 4 officers are booked for murder. Look, we're already fighting in America the COVID-19 virus. That virus has killed to date over 100,000 people. Unfortunately, disproportionately, of that 100,000, most of them perhaps look like me. But there's another virus in this country called racism. And there are a sect group of people who believe that it's okay to murder African American men and women and children. This we will not stand for. Look at the Ahmaud Arbery case in Brunswick, Georgia, the home of my wife, from the state of Georgia, where I pastured and live and own property. My God, how can the McMichael brothers believe that it's okay, along with Mr. Roddy Bryant, to ambush a young man that had a promising future? What about Amy Cooper, who decided that she can call the police on Christian Cooper and say that he was threatening her life because he's a bird watcher and her dog was not on a leash, which was the rule of the park. Can we really fathom that it's okay for one ethnic group to do what they want against another? I dare not. And so I joined the Minneapolis citizens calling for justice for George Floyd. When I heard that it was about a counterfeit $20 bill, I was reminded of my two young boys when they were 16 years of age, and Nick, Scooter 16, and my young son Nick was about 8. They together went to the store, had received a counterfeit $20 bill from my church because they were doing music ministry, and we would pay them little allowance because of their services. And unfortunately, someone put a $20 bill, counterfeit $20 bill in our offering plate, and they went shopping to get their snacks, only to be detained for a period of time by the police officer. And as Amy said, the luxury of being and having the protection of the police officer, being the police chaplain of East Point, Georgia, under Chief Leander Robinson, I was called because they were my boys, and they were released. Their lives were spared. Unlike George Floyd, he lost his life for a counterfeit $20 bill. This cannot be tolerated. Those young men, those 4 police officers rather, should be charged with murder. Let me say to those who are listening to me that I'm not a racist. I don't believe in racism, but I know it exists. And wherever we see it, we must cut and chop the ugly head of racism off. We must annihilate it. It must not be tolerated in 2020. And so I say to you that are listening to me that we join, and you should join, and make your voices heard with the Minneapolis citizens that we want justice. Many times when we see protesters in this moment, like we see in Minneapolis, we saw it in Ferguson, we saw it in Denver. They will burn down stores. They will protest and curse. Yes, they will, because the frustration of knowing police oppression as they know it caused them to cry out. They're crying out for freedom. They're crying out for liberation. And we join them. We join them in their cry for justice for their community. As Malcolm X says, truth, no matter who tells it, I stand for it. I am for justice, no matter who it is for or against. Justice must be served. And so, in my conclusion, this is a sad day in America where so many African American lives are lost to the COVID-19. But it's even more sad that we're still losing lives to racism, and the bias against African American people. We will not bow. We will not dip. We will raise our heads of the ugliness of racism. We stand with you, Minneapolis. We stand with the family, my wife, my mother, my siblings, who feel your pain at the loss of your loved one to police officers who could have de-escalated the moment, but decided to escalate the moment and take a human life. unacceptable. My prayers are with you. We stand with you. God bless you. Hang in there. Justice will be done.